Good morning and welcome. So thanks for coming on today. For those who don't know me, I'm Jon Davies of Jon Davies Accountants, and this is our latest Profit Expert live web event. We're doing this every month. So far this year we've covered things like the tax year reset, and we did one kind of planning for the year, and we did pricing for profit, and we've got them planned out for the rest of the year. But today is your growth engine, and more specifically looking at how to pick your two best marketing channels for the next 90 days. Because if your marketing feels kind of a bit random at the moment, you are definitely kind of not alone. Most business owners I speak to are not short of ideas, but are short of time, focus, and a bit of consistency on the marketing. So the aim today is to kind of stop trying to do lots and lots of things and actually pick the best couple to be doing right now. And kind of why are we doing this? Because this is a bit different to a standard accountants talk. But of course, we're not just accountants, we are profit experts. But I think one of the things that we've always done with our clients and more widely is talk more widely than just the accounts. We talk about making a better business. Last week we hosted the Business Improvement Summit, and the Business Improvement Summit was not just about accounts and tax, it was about improving a business. And for me, I get the slide change. One of the things for me is that for many years now, I've been both a member of the Entrepreneur Circle, which is a kind of a national organization that has like a 5-figure membership of small businesses, helping them grow. And if I look at these up at the top left there, back in 2013, I actually had the franchise for Liverpool for the Entrepreneur Circle. And actually, funny of it, because I'm aware that one attendee on here today, the back of their head is on that picture at the top left. Also, actually, coincidentally, I had a new starter working here on Monday. The back of her head's also on there because she came along to an event I ran. That's about 13 years ago, I think. And then that I did that for a little while until they actually bought all the franchisees out and centralised it. But for the last 5 years, I've run the local meetings in Liverpool for the Entrepreneurs Circle, which come at the top right and kind of down the bottom. And those meetings are very much where I'm talking about business growth. And a lot of that business growth is about marketing. So I thought actually to break up these web events, then all about tax and accounts, is that we're very much about profit growth, and therefore to add in a couple that are just slightly wider than the standard accounting thing. So that's why we're here today. So why does this matter? Well, like I say, most businesses don't have a shortage of ideas. We are business owners. That thing, we love shiny bright objects, so we're always full of ideas, always finding something new to do. But often it is a bit scattergun. There's a few kind of social media posts bobbing up on the odd networking event, doing a newsletter when we remember or have the time. A little bit of Google Ads get switched on and off. But great ideas, but not enough focus or consistency. We're doing a bit of everything, but not enough of one thing. And so, none of us are lazy, none of us are uncreative. Even an accountant, I can be quite creative. It's just getting momentum to get stuff done. So today is not about doing more, it's about doing the right things and doing them more consistently. Now, one of the things that we kind of talk about in the Entrepreneur Circle is about your marketing pillars. And your marketing pillars, if you think of like a building like this, like the Parthenon in Greece or something, has lots of pillars. And what it means is that if one of them is a little bit wobbly, or even falls away, the building is still solid. And therefore, with your marketing, it makes sense to have lots of marketing pillars, lots of things you're doing, so that if one isn't working at any given time, the rest keep the business going and kind of so forth. And that's exactly what we want over time. In the long run, you want lots of pillars, you want referrals, you want content, you want social media, you want emails going out, you want events, you want adverts, you want partners, and so on and so forth. A range of things kind of working together. And funny enough, actually, I ran an event for the Entrepreneur Circle in October, and here's the workbook called Marketing Pillars. And we spent a lot of time on this. So one of the things we did was actually got people to brainstorm how many marketing pillars that people could come up with. And like I said, there's lots of the obvious ones, which I've just mentioned some, whether referrals, social media, adverts, and so on and so forth. But we had a little thing here with 74 And just to give you an example of some of these marketing pillars, some that you might not have thought of, and I'm not going to dwell on it here because it's not about shiny bright objects, but some of them will just tick with it a blimp. So as in like a balloon with your name on. We talked about advertising trailers and vans. One of my clients does that very successfully. They have a football podcast and have a van with their thing on outside Anfield on a match day. It works very well for them. Promo girls. I remember bumped into one of my friends who was doing a promotion for Lucozade in town. I got some free cans of Lucozade, but of course that was kind of working, and handing out stuff in town. Football ground banners. One of my friends sponsors Gillingham Town, who I think are in League Two. And that, but as well as, obviously, get some nice stuff for it, but actually it's not the worst thing having it on the electronic banner going around the ground, because they do periodically, they're on the tally. And another one actually on here is billboards. And we, many years ago, we were looking at moving office at the old firm. And I know my business partner's particularly keen on being on a main street for visibility and people knowing the name. I remember chatting to the estate agent and said, well, it's actually very, very expensive. You'd be better off renting an office on a business park and taking out a billboard on the street. And billboards can be very effective, actually. And it's kind of a well-used story, certainly by me. And the Innocent Smoothies built themselves off only a handful of billboards, because what they did was work out who the main buyers were, which for them was only, like, say, 5 people. The lead buyer at Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Asda, Morrison's, and whatever, Waitrose or something. And they just bought billboards on their routes to work. So they look like they're everywhere. So anyway, I've got 74 marketing pillars here. Today is not about trying to find 74. We want to get 2. So we'll kind of move on from needing lots of pillars in the long term, but think about the mistake people make. And the mistake people make is trying to build them all at once. It is much better to build 2 that work very, very well than have 6 or 7 that are half done. So it's that thing of doing the odd little social media post, going to the odd event, meaning to do email, thinking about partnerships and having lots of half-built things, none of which are really performing. So instead of having 6 strong pillars, you've got 6 wobbly ones. And the point of today is actually better to build 2 over the next 90 days that work than have 6 half done and are doing nothing. Because if you've got 2 that are up and running, working and delivering, well, A, it's actually bringing some sales in, and B, it is that thing if you've got that satisfaction completing something and then momentum to then move on to the next 2 and the next 2 and the next 2. So why do business owners get stuck? Well, like I say, it's that thing, isn't it, of too many ideas, too little time, the curse of the entrepreneur in many ways. But that means there's no kind of clear priority, no regular follow-up. You might get a few leads in, but you're that busy, you're not then following them up. So the lead comes in, you think, oh, great, might drop them the initial email, phone call, offer, but then don't follow up a day later, a week later, a month later to actually kind of make it happen. And then, something gets started, then you can just get kind of busy. And it stops. And then a few weeks later, you get a new idea and do a little bit of that, and then you stop. So it's that thing. People are not short of ideas, are short of systems. And one of the things we kind of talk about a lot is that the goal for most businesses, excuse me, is to have rhythmic acquisition of customers. So that every month you've got you're going to get, say, 1 customer a week, 1 customer a month, whatever the rhythm is you need for your business, because some businesses need 20 customers a day because you're in retail. Some who might be in professional services don't want 20 a day. We couldn't take on 20 a day. We want, say, a couple a month. But your rhythm of what works for your business. But to have rhythmic acquisition, you need rhythmic activity. You need to be doing stuff rhythmically to make that happen, rather than it being this stop-start, which lots just kind of get pulled into. So why focus on 2 for the next 90 days? It's to avoid the overwhelm of the little fellow in the middle there. But 2's kind of manageable. You can sustain 2. 2, it's easier to track, to review. to improve. It's easy to roll two out to your team if they are doing it. And like I said earlier, it's that thing of actually you want to build momentum. It's better having two running properly for 90 days than 6 or 7 half done and either not started yet or just running kind of badly and not delivering. That's why we're going to look at two, because it's very much about creating momentum, not overwhelm. So how do we choose? Well, it's not by asking kind of what's trendy at the moment. Oh, people are doing, whatever this might be, people are doing TikTok, people are using AI, people are, I've seen someone do a blimp or advertising that. It's not about what's trendy, it's thinking about your buyers and what they do and their behaviours, because that's really, really important. Where do your buyers pay attention? Who do they already trust? How do they like to buy? There's also, well, what can you realistically be doing every week? Because clearly picking something which might be a good idea, but you've no idea how to do, or practically you cannot do every week because it's massively time intensive, may not be the thing. So the best kind of channel to be using is not necessarily the fashionable one or what you just know other people are doing broadly. It's based on your buyers. And it's very important all the time to understand your market, your message and your media. And the media comes last. If you know your market and you know what to say to them, how you say it to them is almost the last bit of the jigsaw. So to be very, very stereotypical, if you were selling Saga holidays to pensioners, you're probably not doing it on kind of Snapchat or something. But similarly, if you're selling something to teenagers, you're not going to take out a printed advert in the Financial Times. So it's that thing of actually, that each of those may work for the people, but it's about what your buyers are and where they are and where you find them. And there are 7 common channel types I want to talk about. For the eagle-eyed amongst you, notice the shape in the middle actually has 8 bits, but I'm not that good at numbers, so it is 7. And here are kind of 7 common ones. They're not all of them. Like I say, I've got 74 over here. I mean, clearly some of these kind of group. But 7 common ones. Referrals, i.e. generally people referring sales to you. And, commonly that might be your customers who you do a good job for and tell somebody else. Partners are people who may be referring to you, but more as they are somebody who shares customers with you. So, for example, I'm an accountant. I might partner with like a bank, a solicitor, an HR business. I mean, I could spend my life meeting financial advisors who want to help my clients. But the reason I want to help my clients is that they know that we share common customers and are having a similar conversation. Organic social media, so actually posting on all the major social media kind of sites, and then paid adverts, which in this instance, I'm talking as much about paid adverts on social media or similar. So there's a difference between just posting stuff on Facebook, for example, and doing a meta ad, an advert on Facebook or Google ads. And then at the top, like content. So content, it can be blogs, it can be ebooks, it can be podcasts, it can be webinars, but actually producing content that your customers will read. Email might be therefore to spread that content, or it might be actually to make direct offers to people. And events. Events could include something like this, which is an event, or like last week we ran the Business Improvement Summit, a real life event in the central Liverpool, with about 50 people there. And like I said, they're not the only ones. And again, we don't need to use them all at once in one go, but they all kind of have slightly different benefits or good at something slightly different. So referrals about warm introductions. So you've got a customer who thinks you've done a good job. They tell their friend that you've done a good job. And therefore, when they speak to you, they already have that warm introduction and are ready to have that conversation. Partners is borrowing trust. Like I say, if I'm speaking to one of my clients about their taxes, might be about pensions and investments, if I introduce them to a financial advisor, there is a trust there. So the financial advisor will borrow the trust my client has with me to help them build trust quickly. Organic social media, so posting on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, etc., 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 is about visibility and familiarity. So you're visible, you're seen, people are kind of familiar with you, and that. Whereas kind of paid adverts is about getting reach and testing and lead generation. So to use Facebook, we'll touch on a bit more detail in the next slide, a couple of slides down the road, but it's that difference of just posting something or paying to have an advert appear. Content is about education and authority. So by sharing good information about what you do, about the field you are in, that people want to read, or watch or listen to, firstly educates people and also gives you authority. If you're the expert on that, when I need paid help, where do I go? To the person who's educated me, but also has that authority because I know they're kind of good. Email can be used for both nurture and follow-up. So nurturing might be, I mean, as an example, we do a weekly email newsletter, 10:30 every Thursday, our accelerator email, and 90% of those are basically educating. So it is putting what are hopefully useful things in there to nurture both prospects who we've not met and have signed up to the newsletter, or people we might have met in the past were not ready to move accountants, but by sharing useful information and nurturing that relationship over time, at the minute they're ready to buy, who's popped into their inbox at 10:30 on a Thursday morning. You can also use it, therefore, for follow-up as well. But of course, sometimes as well, you can use it for direct sale. So a restaurant or something, and you have an email newsletter, or if you're just essentially every now and then you actually have an offer in there. Great, actually, this week, it's 20% off, if you're a restaurant, free start or whatever it might be. So you can use it for a direct sale as well. And then events, speed of trust. Because, last week, as an example, we ran an event in town, about 50 people there, and clearly there were people there. It was about 50-50 split between clients and non-clients. For the non-clients who might not have known who I was beforehand, they spent, a few hours in my company as such, of me educating with authority, but also to build that trust quicker, because spend some time in a room and hopefully build trust. They might have might be the opposite for some of them, but overall it's that more quickly you can get that trust and think, oh, actually, yeah, he could be the person we want to buy off in the future. So the difference between organic, social, media, and paid ads. Organic is building visibility and trust. So we post, or actually we as a firm post, but then I post on LinkedIn at the moment nearly every day. And that's just building visibility and trust. And it's funny, it's just that being front of mind. I bumped into somebody at something a couple of weeks ago who said, oh, actually, I'm loving the stuff you do on LinkedIn. Even quoted a couple of things that I'd done. They've never liked it or interacted. That's okay, because that's a vanity thing. We'll touch on that later. But actually, they're seeing it and thinking, oh, actually, that's okay. So it's building that visibility and trust. Whereas paid adverts actually push you into the forefront. So, we ran some Facebook ads the other week over the event we were doing. And that means we are kind of popping up in front of people who do not know us yet. So we're creating reach. Obviously, you're going to pick who you're going to be shown to, but people who are not aware of us yet are popping into their feeds and they're seeing us, and therefore to create leads like that. Whereas organic, clearly they have to interact in some way in the first way, but that visibility and trust builds up. So I say organic is often there, it kind of supports the brand as well. Quite often, if people are making a buying decision, they might be looking at you, then they look at your social media, say, oh, what do you, find out a bit more about you, what's the brand like? Whereas paid is actually often to push an offer out there. So which channel fits which business? Well, I say professional firms like ourselves, and also intent-led services might be things like, there are lots of things, but for us, things like Google Ads can work well. Because people are kind of looking for us. For us, kind of referrals can be very strong for a professional firm as well, because the intent means someone actually needs something now. have intention to buy something, and referrals, because they might ask a friend, a trusted person, and so on and so forth. Partners work well, emails. If you've got a visual or lifestyle or kind of B2C business, often kind of excuse me, the social medias like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and so on and so forth, and also Facebook ads that are kind of breaking into people's feeds and seeing them. Emails can work well, referral schemes. Relationship with their local businesses. I mean, may do brilliant referrals, events, partners. Also, often for local business, I'm using an old classic is flyers. There is an oft-told story of an EC, an Entrepreneur Circle, member about a car garage, who all their business comes from flyers, and very cleverly, because they've got this down to a T now, is that on a rota in the area they cover, every Sunday morning they drop flyers through letterboxes. And basically, got a rota space. Any given house gets one every 4 weeks. So they do a different bit of the area every week. And they do it on a Sunday morning because most people are in on a Sunday morning, which means their car is parked out front. And they have an array of flyers. You've got a little tool belt they've made, actually, so they have different ones. So if you've got a Ford parked out front, you get the Ford flyer. If you've got a BMW, you get the BMW flyer. If you've got a Porsche, you get the Porsche flyer. Because we're experts in Ford or Vauxhall or BMW. And they know by doing that on a 4-week basis, at some point during the year, it will drop at a time when they're thinking of a service. And therefore, that's when they pick up all the things. So flyers is just an example there to throw kind of another one in. And I'd say a few practical examples. Google Ads work very well for people who are looking for something. And that could be something like, an accountant, a solicitor, mortgage broker, or what have you, because I'm buying a house, I need a mortgage broker, and therefore I'm Googling it now. Similarly for a plumber, electrician, somebody where you might have an emergency, and therefore I'm searching, I need a plumber, I've got a leak. LinkedIn is usually more likely to be professional services. Instagram works very well for anything visual, so beauty business, wedding business, restaurant, interiors, and that lovely pictures and people looking very much in their own time, whereas LinkedIn is often more work type of thing. And meta ads, so across Facebook, Instagram, work very well again for things that people like buying but might not know they need right now. So an accountant, we can absolutely do meta ads. But generally, when people are on one of those platforms, they're not really thinking. And yes, we can break the concentration with some, bad news story about taxes or something, makes them need something done. But more likely, it'll be something kind of nice that drops in and thinks, I fancy that. I bought the other week something. I'd just been away and it'd been a bit of hassle over the hand luggage, the lengths of trip, and all that sort of thing. And it happened to be an ad from somebody had bought from before something, so I knew they were okay. But basically, some vacuum bags, that can compress your kind of your clothing next time you pack, and that was a Facebook ad that I did actually buy something from. And some of these will bring direct leads, while others will kind of support the brand and help those direct ones convert better. So how do you choose your next 2 pillars? Well, like I say, it's back to choose 2 that are relevant to you, or start with what's relevant to your buyers. As I said earlier, it's that market, message, and media. You need to know your market and what you want to say, and therefore what is the media for you to use. And to use my stereotypical one of a few minutes ago, pensioners are not on Snapchat, teenagers aren't reading the Times. It's very stereotypical, but just you really got to think about that, and you'll start to know. I mean, just for some people, there will be a journal for that sector who are your target market, which is the place to advertise because your target market is reading that journal or website. Also realistic for you to run, like I say, actually doing something which is not realistic either due to the knowledge, the time commitment, or the money. There's no point picking that as your next one. They might come later, but pick something you either know how to run or be relatively easy to get up and running. So it's likely to create momentum, and something is easy just to keep going for 90 days. There are some things you can set going and sit back, but generally we look at things that you'll keep. monitoring and looking at. And just again, to give you a couple of examples, if you were a professional services firm or what have you, it might be you've chosen Google Ads and emails. Ads to capture the active buyers. People are looking for, you right now, and that's creating opportunities. And then you get an email newsletter to when you've got those opportunities, because some might buy straight away, but those who don't, to nurture them and also nurture the existing contacts you have and keep a relationship moving. Because actually dropping an email to either current contacts, current clients or past clients often creates business. I know, and I say because I run a lot of things in the entrepreneur circle, but their single best performing thing that they get members to do is something called the 3-line email, which is very simply an email to people who have bought from you before or who have got in touch and not bought yet, to say, hi, John, are you still interested in X, or whatever you do? Thanks. And as simple as that has created hundreds of £1,000s worth of business in the entrepreneur circle, because there are people who haven't bought from you, have been in touch and existing contact and saying, hi, are you still interested in, or are you interested in buying again if there's something I've bought from you and it's a repeat type of purchase? So that's an example. If you are a more kind of B2C business as such, it could be a florist, a restaurant, beauty, might be go for meta ads and Instagram, or like organic posts. I mean, these are just examples. You obviously pick your two. With the ads getting reach and inquiries, whereas the organic is then people, because they've seen that, probably check you out and got that trust and the proof. So one's actually bringing traffic, and the other one, actually the organic is helping conversion. So actually they're okay. I can see what they've been posting over time. And then you kind of build your 90-day growth engine. So weeks 1 and 2 about choosing the channels, getting your message together, and that's the basics of kind of getting it up and running. Weeks 3 and 6 is launch, and you keep showing up and you keep doing it. I have my phone going off. Nobody rings me. So yeah, that launch and keeping showing up. Weeks 7 to 10 it's about measurement. We'll come on to that in a second. But measurement. What's working? Why is it working? Let's make it better. If it's not working, what do we need to tweak? But very much improving what is working, getting traction, so that by the time you come to week 11 to 13, it's reviewing what am I going to keep doing, what am I improving, and what might I stop? Because not everything works. But review those. Hopefully, we've got 2 pillars that are working well. Review them and then work out what might be my next 2 for the next 90 days. But the key thing is building those 2 pillars and getting them standing properly before you add another one. And this is where getting a weekly rhythm comes in. Clearly, we'll all build our own rhythm. But as I said earlier, we all, generally in business, we want a rhythmic acquisition of customers. We all have a different rhythm. Let's say it might be retaining 20, 50, 100 sales every day. Someone like me, 1 or 2, 2 a month, because we have to onboard, and obviously they're kind of paying more money than if they're buying a pen off me or whatever it might be. Similarly, how we work our rhythm every week will be different for all of us. There's an example here on a Monday, reviewing the leads and the pipeline from the leads from the previous week, the pipeline. Tuesday, work on channel 1, Wednesday, work on channel 2, Thursday, follow up with leads, and Friday, review and tweak. The exact days don't matter, the rhythm does. We have every Monday, 2 o'clock, we have a meeting where we do look at our leads and pipeline. I then do stuff during the week. And to use one recently, I decided at the start of this year that I should be doing more on LinkedIn, with one eye on the event we were doing last week, but it's growing my kind of reach, so that when we started to talk about that, more people were seeing it. And on a Friday, I kind of look at what's happened, and then I generally plan my posts for the next week. Well, actually, I've actually planned for about 4 weeks in advance. They might get tweaked as we go, but every Friday I have a look at what I've got next week. I need to change it because that's what I'm thinking of doing, because there's a bit of a theme going on, but then stuff crops up as well. But the best rhythm is one you can do and still do even when the business gets busy, because that's that rhythmic acquisition, needs rhythmic activity. And again, one of the things we talk about the Entrepreneur Circle a lot, and the guy who founded the Entrepreneur Circle always says, Nigel, he puts all his success down to his 90 minutes. And 90 minutes is basically, he sets aside 90 minutes every day to work on the business. And it is non-disturbable, non-movable. He does his first thing, so he gets in early and does it. And that means whatever happens in the business during the day, he's done 90 minutes to move his business forward. So generally around marketing, potentially some strategic, but that marketing hasn't happened. And he's done that since he started the business 20 years ago and still does it does it every day now. And I was kind of with him last week, and I know the meeting we're in started at 8 o'clock, so he'd had quite an early start to get his 90 minutes in, but he'd done it. Now, I know a number of people who think actually 90 minutes is too much, I'll do 60, but anything that's rhythmic happens and continues happening when the business gets busy. That's the key thing. We don't get busy and not do it and find to use this rhythm on here. I was busy on Tuesday and Wednesday, so not worked on channel 1 or channel 2. Okay, if you know that you're genuinely, because next Monday's a bank holiday, or you're out of the office all day, well, okay, you might have to stack a couple, but it's going to happen every week. Okay, so that's the rhythm. Then what do you measure? Well, it's that thing, what gets measured matters. You need some goals, clearly, so you know whether it's working, and then it's actually measuring it. So if I use, last week we ran this event, and we had 2 goals, to start, one of which was the number of attendees, and the second was the number of meetings we would book off the back of it. You'll be glad to know, I'm sure, I'm glad to know we kind of did hit both goals, which was great. But if we didn't have a goal, we wouldn't have known whether it worked. Now, sometimes doing something new is kind of tricky, because we hadn't run that event before, and we could have set a goal of getting 1,000 people there and been very embarrassed. We could have set a goal of getting 10 people there. I thought, wow, it's incredible, but we did give some thought about what would make it worthwhile for us and make it a good event. So we had a goal so we could measure it. It's important here, like I say, you don't get obsessed with what I called earlier vanity metrics. So if you're on social media, likes, followers, impressions are nice, but they're not the main thing. The main thing of what's the outcome. They might be a stepping stone, but as I said earlier, people are looking at your social media without liking or what have you. So it can be misleading that. But certainly you might be measuring the appointments booked with you, the conversations you've had. I mean, obviously down the bottom left, the leads, however you measure a lead. Because for each of a lead might mean a different thing. So, for us, somebody signing up to our newsletter is a lead in some ways, but we don't measure that as a lead in terms of actually buying off us yet. We're keeping an eye on it, don't get me wrong. But leads, somebody who's showing a genuine intent to buy, is hugely important. Clearly, at the top right, the sales, what you've actually sold off the back of it is a big one. Down the bottom right, quality of inquiry. So again, actually, you can be getting lots of leads if they're of no use to you. The first time we ever ran Facebook ads ourselves, somebody did it for us. We got a lot of leads. They're all in Wigan. And nothing against Wigan, but for some reason, it'd been targeted at Wigan. I mean, it was a mistake. But clearly, we saw some leads. That's good. But they're all in Wigan. And this was pre-COVID as well, where we've always had clients spread around the country. And these days, about 75% of our clients are not local, because people are very comfortable with Zoom and the likes. And we were using Zoom or Skype for business a long time ago, but then Zoom from about 10 years ago. But pre-COVID, a lot of people who wanted an accountant did want something to meet face to face. So Wigan is just far enough away that really we're not really local. And also, when you looked at them, a lot of them weren't business owners either. So actually, they weren't really quality leads. You do need to kind of measure the quality of your inquiries. Excuse me, but like I say, it's not about measuring noise, it's about measuring kind of the actual movement you're making. And the other two on there I've got cost per lead and cost per acquisition, which I'll just talk through on the next slide. So cost per lead and cost per acquisition. Now, clearly, if you're running any sort of marketing channel, you need to firstly know money do you make when you make a sale? And that can be on the first thing they buy from you, but then over a lifetime. So if you're a restaurant, it will be okay, if somebody comes into my restaurant, what's the average they spend on a meal? And also what's the profit I make on that? So let's say, to use a nice round number for me, the average profit on their first meal, I'm a proper restaurant, not a takeaway or something here, is £50. But then the average customer, because they book and I track this, of course, will eat with me 5 times in a year. It might be twice, but you know your average, and therefore over a year, I'm getting 5 times £50 is £250. So you want to know both of those, which is why it's therefore important to understand these costs here. So if I run Google Ads and spend £1,000, I might get 500 leads. So my cost per lead is £2. But of those, because Google Ads are a bit, they're leads, they've clicked, and so on and so forth, but how warm are they after that? I might get 5 customers. So my cost per acquisition, my cost per customer is £200. So my cost per lead is really low, but actually they're not that warm. So my cost per acquisition is £200 to get a customer. That's what's very important to know how much customer is worth to you, because £200 might be brilliant or it might be rubbish, depending on I said use the restaurant to pay £200 to get someone coming in and make me make £50 on first meal. It's not the greatest return. Now, if I know on average people spend with me 6 times a year and we get £300, you might be thinking, okay, that's okay. There's a cash flow thing. I pay money up front and they're going to get the money back over a year. But again, we'll all have our own feel of whether actually that's a good return or not. But clearly, if you're a one-off purchase and you make £50, you're not going to spend £200 to get a customer because you're down. Another channel and use on what we've used over the years might be to join a networking group. And again, let's say you spend £1,000. But from that networking group, you get 20 leads. So your cost per lead is £50, which is a lot more than from Google, but they're warm leads. They've been referred to you by somebody who knows them, who knows you, and therefore you convert half of them. So you get 10 customers, and therefore your cost per acquisition is £100. Now, again, you would do your sums over what you would make off a customer to say whether that is good or not. Because I think with both of those, £100 could be very good, but £200 could be good too, good as well. It's not a case of therefore dump the Google Ads and only do the networking here, because the networking might be finite. There's capacity. There's only so much of you to go around. It's one networking group. I can't do 2. Whereas Google Ads is infinitely scalable. So, the networking might be a lower cost per acquisition, but Google Ads still works, and therefore, great, we can scale Google Ads. But for every one you do, you need to understand these figures. Let's say, to use the example of a restaurant, a guy who I know well, and I hadn't realised it until I think he was also on one of those pictures at the back of his head as well. Coaches and works in restaurant, in his hospitality trade all his life. And one of his silly little things he gets restaurants to do sometimes, it's not silly because it works, is if you have a regular who gets a little bit, is effectively give them, and even do, rather than a voucher, an actual £20 note. And say, if you bring somebody in for dinner, I'll give them this £20 note to pay towards the meal. Because he knows actually the profit he's making on that meal is more than 20 quid. But actually, the longer game is if he serves them really well, they'll come back again because they understand the value of their customers and therefore happily spend £20 to get one, or this £200, £100. Therefore, you do need to know all bits of that to actually know if something's kind of working. Okay, so what are the common mistakes? Well, they're probably pretty obvious. I say try to build too many pillars at once, and either doing all of them badly because you spread your time too thinly, or just not finishing any of them, so none of them get going. Stopping too early, i.e. immediately thinking, oh, I'm not sure about this not working, without properly measuring it or understanding the results and tweaking it. Copying somebody else blindly. So-and-so is doing this, it must be great. Well, is so-and-so got the same market as you, doing the same thing as you? And even if they are one of your competitors, it might be it's not working for them. Also, it might be working very, very well, but it might be, when you do, it's not working at first because it's banana rama syndrome. It ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. So you might be on the right channel, but you're doing it badly. So thinking like that, not following up, you create leads, you get happy that you've got the leads, but don't do the proper follow-up, getting in touch with them, sharing more stuff. If they don't buy straight away, following up with them. If you come to a quote, following up with them, just keeping that going. Confusing visibility with results. So, I've got lots of likes. Well, is anyone buying? And like I say, doing stuff without reviewing it, which is obviously kind of a huge thing. So a mini kind of self-audit, I suppose, is questions to ask yourself, and score yourself at 5 if you want. Do you know your next 2 channels, or at least, off the back, you can go and have a think about that and start to pull them together. You know why they fit your buyers. So, to test those 2 channels, is there a good reason here they fit your buyers, rather than just something that you fancy doing? You've got a weekly rhythm, so you can set out that little thing of what you're going to do, kind of weekly. So one of us actually weekly with Zoe is a big thing for us, actually creating content this year. So I set out, and we just started on the path of making sure we record a video every week, and then knowing that also then we can post and split it up, so it becomes a bit of a thing that I film on a Monday and and on and on. Committing to 90 days, I had to probably give it a go, and actually having goals so you know what success looks like. Did it work or did it not? Not, I quite enjoyed it, or it was rubbish. But okay, based on what were the goals, what were the results, and did you hit them? And if your score is low out of 5, it's not bad news, just tells you what you need to fix next and kind of work on this. So the next step really is like to do that little mini audit, look at your current channels, of course, as well, because it might be, which is perfectly good, is you've got a current one that you haven't given the love, care, and attention it needs right now, and therefore that is one of your channels. Because we've got stuff that we're all guilty of this. I mean, I'd be a hypocrite if I said I wasn't. Our weekly email newsletter has performed very well for us over the years. About 2 years ago, I just fell out of the habit a little bit. And by that, as in I've done it for years, and I'll admit it is a commitment to think of something every week. Share a secret, some get repeated every now and then because they're evergreen. There'll be a couple around Christmas time about tax relief for a Christmas party and Christmas gifts and all that, and what have you. But even so, and I just during I think it's 2024, I think they were not every week. There's still more weeks than they weren't, but I wasn't regular. Whereas last year, I committed again to myself and out loud, actually, in a kind of mastermind group, that I'm doing it every week. And I did. And we get results from it. So it might be looking at a current channel and kind of resurrecting that, or being more rhythmic on it. Choosing the best 2 to prioritise, and then building that practical 90-day plan. That's kind of the next steps. And to kind of recap on that then, so in the long run, you do want lots of marketing pillars. Like I said, back to that picture of like the Parthenon or similar, there's lots of pillars, meaning that because at any given time, one might not be working, something might happen. You might be totally knocked out. I mean, Elon Musk and some of the changes he's made to Twitter/X that have taken away its linkage into lots of other things might have caused a lot of software as a problem. So it could be something totally out of your control, or just actually is just not working right now. But you've got lots of them between them they're delivering. But in the short run, just build 2 at a time. As I choose based on buyer behaviour, not just what you think is trendy or you fancy doing. Commit for 90 days. Review properly against goals, and then look at adding the next pillar. And what we're kind of happy to do as well is, if useful, is have a kind of brief meeting with you and do a bit of a growth engine audit and help you with that kind of process. So if that is something you're interested in, there's a kind of QR code on the screen, and it will remain on the screen on the Q&A slide or what have you, or you can type it using that rather long address at the bottom. But we will send out a link to that as well later. We can sit down for about 45 minutes. We can talk through your business and what might be your 2 channels to pick up upon. And again, that's something we do, you know, in the entrepreneur circle local meetings. It's quite a common thing that we do. And like I say, as it was in October 2025, your marketing pillars was what we did, and we kind of did that at the end for a number of businesses. So on that, then I'm going to just broadly bring that to an end with just an opportunity for any Q&A, and I'm looking across at Gareth. Cool. So we've got one here. So, okay, yeah. So what if I generally don't know which two channels to choose? Well, like I say, it is that thing. If you generally have no idea, well, meeting with us and all that, but I think going back to that thing of actually thinking, who are your target market and where do they hang out? And by hanging out, that can be what they read. I mean, we do a thing where we quite common thing in marketing is to build an avatar of your ideal client and think about who they are, what they do, and therefore what they might read, where they go, how they interact. I know actually I'll use an entrepreneur circle example actually, because Nigel's initial business was called My Mag, and it was a magazine, a local magazine in a box. You could buy the kit for it. And they found ultimately that their ideal clients were women on maternity leave, and in particular want to go back to work, and therefore wanted something that would make them money without being committed to a job. And therefore, they found, and it helped that actually they ran an article on them anyway, which kind of helped because they were looking for the Red magazine ran an article on them because they were looking for something to be useful to their readership. But therefore, the point is, if their readership is precisely the target market, therefore put adverts in there. So it's kind of thinking a bit like that. But is that thing where who are your ideal buyers? Where do they hang out? Or where do people who know them hang out? And that might be via networking or partnerships. And like I said, with me, IFAs particularly. And we've got loads of really good independent financial advisors we work alongside. But I do get approached by a lot because they know actually I'm an accountant. I'm discussing money and accounts and tax with my clients. And therefore, it is quite a natural, as part of that discussion is, actually, one of the ways to save tax is a pension. How do I sort that out? An IFA. So that's why IFAs like to partner with accountants. So very much kind of thinking like that. But yeah, and then like I say, obviously pairing that with actually, do I know how to do it? But certainly, step one is who are your ideal buyers and where do they hang out, or what do they read, what do they watch, and therefore where we're going to see them. Like I said, one of our clients, the Anfield Wrap football podcast, the advertising van, they've got a couple of banners there outside Anfield on a match day. Well, clearly, they're target market Liverpool fans, and you've got a lot of them going in and out of Anfield on a match day. So that just kind of clearly makes sense. It's kind of thinking like that. So someone's asked about events. Actually, is it worth doing events for a small business? Well, yes. Again, as long as you know what you kind of want to achieve. And again, we did one last week. Clearly, it cost us an amount of money to put on. It also cost us an amount of time to put on, and therefore we needed a goal of what it would do. And that's kind of true for anyone. And also, of course, thinking about what the event would be that your target market would be attracted to. We have a client who, we've got a client who sells beauty equipment to salons. About the best way of explaining it, and they actually run also an open day in their office/showroom, inviting people in, and they'll lay on, might be a pack of sandwiches from Marks and Spencer or whatever, bit of prosecco and all that sort of thing. So it won't be like that, but they get them coming in. And then obviously they'll like come in, they'll have a little chat, they might have a little talk about something that's going on in the industry. But again, it's kind of showing things. So yeah, it can. It doesn't work for everyone. It just depends what you are doing and what you're trying to sell. But certainly, absolutely. how often should I review the results? Yeah, we review weekly. Um, Certainly for kind of activity follow up, so you're on top of it. Because, like I say, what you don't do is get leads and then disappear or go cold through lack of love, care, and attention. So, therefore, we have a meeting every Monday afternoon, 2 p.m. Whereas past that, we look at that and therefore just make sure we keep on top of them. We are looking at results a bit then, but more likely might monthly have a proper review of the results of what's kind of coming out the other end, particularly for something new, because you don't want to. We ran the other week, we ran some Facebook ads for our event. And within a few hours of them going live, we had someone booked our event, bought a ticket. The following 3 weeks, nobody else did. So, it's doing with the weekly and slightly longer term. Now, if we do them again, we'd probably learn some stuff about what we did, because it's the first we'd run Facebook ads for about 10 years since the Wigan experience, and what have you. But yeah, weekly, because you want to be on top of it, monthly for overall performance. And then, to use my example here, after 90 days, a proper review. Is that pillar built properly? Is it working? Is it delivering? If it is, great. Can I make it even better? If it is, it's great, and I can't make it better, can I put more money on it to scale it? So if you've got a Google Ads cash machine, for every pound I spend on Google Ads, I get £10 back. Well, spend more pounds on Google Ads, but that kind of 90-day proper review as well. And I think that's the last one for now, unless Gareth tells us another one there. Brilliant, cool. So on that then, like I say, I'll bring that to an end. Like I say, by all means, if it would be useful and you'd like to talk through this, you can book the meeting using either of those methods on there, and we'll drop an email. And that actually leads actually fun at our event last week. Right at the start, we asked people what the biggest issues they were facing in their business, and the most common one was cash flow. Therefore, next month's event on the 20th of May will be making the cash flow. So again, we'll send out an invitation to kind of book on that if that would be useful. But like I say, that's next month's event, 20th of May, will be making the cash flow. So thank you very much, and I'll see you all next month.